So I'm going to introduce Irina because she has so much great material today. But before I do that, I did want to quickly share my screen so you can see the beautiful Chess Life magazine cover that she's about to appear on. There it is. I don't think anybody's gotten it yet. You guys might be like the first ones to see it. Oh, Irina, do you want to tell us where this was shot? Any information about it?
Yes. Well, I'm not sure which bridge it is behind me. Is it the Manhattan Bridge, Jen? Maybe you know better. It's blue, so I feel like it's the Manhattan Bridge, not the Brooklyn Bridge. What do you think?
Where were you?
Oh, we were in downtown Brooklyn. You know, is it called, is it like the Dumbo region? I think so. Nice jacket. Yeah. That's it's the jacket I wear all the time. It's more like the hat that's special in this picture, guys. This is a hat that I picked up in Kazakhstan in 2013, actually, where I made one of my GM norms at the Women's World Team Championship. I went to Kazakhstan, to Astana, and I picked up this beautiful hat there. It brought me good luck there, and I guess for this photo shoot as well. No, actually, this is probably my favorite photo of the whole shoot. This one.
I
love this picture.
Good. Yeah. You like your expression, right?
I do. I feel like that is, that's my expression.
Yeah, this one is really cool as well.
Yeah, see, this one I think is the Brooklyn Bridge, Jen. This one is the Brooklyn Bridge.
So you guys moved around a little bit.
Oh yeah, we moved around all over that area, and that's an awesome view.
And here are some other pictures of Irina
from my personal archive. Yeah.
But the most important thing is that Irina analyzed some of her games in this article, and she's going to show us some of those. You know, she showed games that were like really important to your career. So it wasn't like recent games necessarily.
Get it to slide.
Yeah, I tried to pick some games, guys, that were maybe, not the most famous, not in like, the U.S. Women's Championships or the Olympiads, or not things that I've annotated before, but things that were, took place at some important moments in my life, or were kind of special games for me. So I'm going to show one of them to you right now.
You know, what's cool about that is a lot of times, like in the Olympiad and the Women's Championship, you're always playing against other women. And then sometimes journalists and students might get the impression that you usually play against other females and that you never play against guys, which, isn't really true. And when you have an article like this, it shows some of the wins that you had against, all genders, right? Which I like.
Yeah, in fact, all of the games that I chose, all of the games that I chose, except the one where I was like, 9 years old. I mean, we're actually all against guys, because most of the time you play against guys, actually. So this was for the 2003 American Continental Championship in Buenos Aires. My first time traveling to Argentina. It was quite a nice place. And I played a guy named Zambrana, and this was the 11th round of the tournament. It was actually the final round. And we know the final game is the most important for how you're going to wind up feeling about your tournament. So I played the Petrov Defense, and there was actually a time in my life, Jen, when I was not playing the Sicilian, and I had a little bit of a flirtation with the Petrov Defense. And, this was known as a very solid continuation for Black. But what was funny was that when I played this opening, I had very exciting games in it, and I had some really nice wins. One also that summer of 2003 against Ivan Cheparinov, who was Topolov second, and then this game. So I was like, wow, the Petrov, it's more exciting than the Sicilian. I was very, very enthusiastic about this opening. Anyway, let's get into it, guys. So we have some theory here. Very standard moves. I chose this bishop d6 line. It's also possible to play with bishop e7 and then like knight c6. But I was learning this one. I kind of liked, the active position of the bishop on the diagonal. And okay, this is all theory. We got to support our center. Lots of different moves here for white. including knight c3, pawn takes d5, and then knight c3, rook e1. Like everything is pretty much playable. I played queen. He played queen c2, attacking my knight, and now it's important to develop this knight with tempo. So it's actually the e4 knight is not really under threat. I mean, they can take it, but Black gets a lot of compensation with the two bishops and the development. So my opponent played a3, which is the normal move. And now, I don't know what, like, I don't think this was my preparation. I probably started thinking on my own around here, but I played this move f5. And, today's computers, I was analyzing this game. I mean, okay, they say white has some advantage. Of course, we know f5 is a bit of a risky move strategically. It weakens a lot of squares in your position, like e5. But at the same time, you're really supporting your knight on a powerful square in e4. So you're trying to say that that's worth it. So that was one of the important decisions I made in this game that kind of set up everything for later. So he plays knight c3, attacking d5. I take my knight off the side of the board, c5. It's possible that maybe he should have played something like b4 immediately. Yeah, white probably does need to expand on the queen side, which is what he did, maybe without fixing the situation in the center, like a more flexible move like that, since it's not like I'm ever going to capture on c4 anyway. But he played c5. I mean, it's reasonable enough. And then he goes knight e2. And so the idea is, I guess he foresaw that this pawn was going to be getting attacked. And so he just prophylactically moves the knight to guard it. I moved my knight to e6. He goes b4 and bishop b2. And, I mean, I have a really nice knight on e4, but so far it's not so clear what to do with him. I mean, I was looking at this game and the computer was offering up some moves like g5, which I have to admit I was not looking at that point, I'm pretty sure. But why not? Black has the knight on e4, has space on the king side. The pawn chain points towards the king side. So, of course, Black should be playing on that side of the board. All right, I played queen c7. He plays knight d2. It's not really a threat to take my knight. Bishop g5. He moved away. Yeah, obviously, he doesn't want to capture. That would leave his bishop trapped. So he moves away. Bishop d7, bishop c1. And yeah, he's trying to trade the bad bishop. A bad dark squared bishop. So I played f4. Didn't want to just leave myself, with very weak dark squares. And he goes f3, and sadly, my knight needs to go back to f6. Okay, so probably at this point in the game, I was feeling like things were strategically kind of dicey. I mean, I had to retreat with my knight. It's not really clear what I'm doing with my space on the king side. And meanwhile, my opponent's going to play on the queen side. So he starts going with a4 and came up with this plan to try to get my pieces to f5. And rook b1, bishop f5. And I think soon enough, our poll question is going to come up. Bishop d2, rook fe8. Knight ec1. His knight is hanging, guys. Rook takes e2 was a threat already, so that's why he moved it away. And I played king h8, and here we go. So yes, what would you do for Black, guys? This is an important moment. Yeah, I mean, things are about to collapse for me on the queen side, so I got to be really careful. Right, because my opponent just took that space on the queen side, marched up his pawns, and now he just wants to play b takes c6, b takes c6, and rook b7, and just completely invade on the 7th rank.
All right, let's see. A bunch of you have your hands raised. Okay. So let's call on Sujana first.
So the move I chose was C takes B5 because now my white can't do like the B takes C6 move, and the bishop can't take because it's pinned by the other bishop, and if it did move, we would lose the queen.
Yes, okay, very interesting. So let's see, C takes, I think that most likely they're going to take with a pawn, right? Just, simple move, capturing towards the center. I mean, those pawns look pretty impressive. I think if they took with the rook, we might be able to have the move b6. And then they don't have those impressive pawns. I mean, the a pawn is not nearly as strong as it would be on b5. And obviously, they can't take because there's a pin going on this way. Of course, we can actually calculate that. It's still not over, is it? There's b7 and knight c6, and then there's bishop a4. But seems like black is coming out okay with this right now. Black's still up a piece. So, yeah, they're going to take with the a pawn. Strategically, this is, of course, not very good for black, right? I mean, you guys can see this compared to that. I mean, we know which pawns are more valuable. And somewhere in this game, we have to watch out for things like b6. So, yeah, interesting idea, Sujana. Let's hear from someone else.
Shahana?
I chose knight e4 because if you take with the pawn, then you can take with your e5 pawn or d5 pawn, and then if he goes bishop c4, you can go e3, and you already win your piece back, but you also opened I think you also have a better chance because you traded your a knight that isn't really doing anything for a bishop who could get active easily.
Very good. Okay. So yeah, this is the move that I played, guys, and this is where things start to get exciting in this game. So I decided, I really can't do something passive. I'm not going to be playing like rook b8 or, bishop c8 or takes. I'm just going to kind of leave the queen side alone, and I'm going to try to bring my knight back to that square where, he was so happy before. And I mean, that's what all these moves were actually about, guys. I'm pretty sure I already had that concept for a while. That was why I played king h8 for sure, to make sure the king is off that diagonal. So when they take, I can take, and there's no check there, right? So we had prepared that idea. The funny thing is that apparently, my opponent could have taken my knight. And I think, so, from a practical point of view, it's pretty hard to do that. He takes, I take. I mean, yeah, if the bishop moves, this is clearly not how white wants the game to go. But apparently they could do something like, I don't know, like moving the queen. And I would take the bishop. Seems like black is getting what they want, right? And then they can take here. And if I take with a b pawn, they're going to come in with rook b7. So this is sort of what I'm trying to do. And, we got the poll. Poll results. What did we have?
I was just going to close this, but sometimes people want to see the results first. So yeah. 9 people picked 94.
9 people. Okay. Yeah. The knight sack was not the easiest. It was not the easiest thing to see. We actually had the 12 people picked the rook e3.
Yeah, I mean, that looks appealing. We've been playing a lot of classes on open files, Irina, and like the idea of the outpost square for the rook. It definitely is a move that's worth considering, but I mean, notice that you're actually not attacking the knight bishop on.
Yeah, I would love to make that move work, but unfortunately for now, it seems like they're just going to take, and they're going to at the very, they're going to take, and then they're going to do something so they don't lose this knight, I suppose.
Yeah, just knight b3 or something.
Yeah, maybe even knight b3, right? I mean, that's a conservative move. There could be something more exciting, of course. I mean,
Like
we
B6.
can, yeah, we can take a look at that. But knight b3 and just kind of like blockade with knight e2. And, black is down in exchange. White doesn't have any bad pieces, no real weaknesses in the pawn structure. So I'm not sure that there would be enough over there. And I mean, of course, white can even like possibly throw in this move, but I would just say take the exchange. Yeah. So knight e4, pawn takes. My opponent would have had to really calculate quite a lot and kind of let the game get a little bit out of control. So, but I just wanted to show you guys an interesting line that is supposed to be good for white here, where he gives back the bishop and plays, let's say, this move here. And very key idea is just to take the pawn, sack the knight, and go for this. So, black was the one who started off by sacrificing material, but here white sacrifices material back. And they're down a piece for actually just one pawn. But the computer considers this is just really good for white, because the rook is coming down. And the center pawns are just so strong here. And of course, my knight on g7 is terrible. I mean, I'm being threatened with the loss of the game immediately, so I have to stop rook b7 from being quite so winning. But in the long run, it's not good for black. So, that's the one little flaw in the concept of knight e4. But, on the other hand, guys, of course, it is hard from a practical point of view for when you voluntarily give up a piece and your opponent sees that your pawns are becoming strong and dangerous like that. It's kind of hard for him to take it, but he definitely could have done it, getting out of that pin. And then bc6 is strong. Even knight takes d3 is also possible. Actually, no, knight takes d3. I can take. I think I can. If I take, the bishop protects the knight. Yeah, knight d3. In that case, I would be going probably something like rook e2. But still looks very dangerous for me. So I was probably kind of lucky that my opponent did not believe that he could take my piece, and he played bishop e1. So, it's a very human move. He just thinks like, okay, let's get out of the trade, since I was definitely thinking about taking that bishop. And, what's the knight on e4 going to do, right? It's just sort of sitting there. It's not attacking anything. Seemed like a very reasonable move. So here we have another question, Jen. What to do next?
Mukunda, did you want to tell us what you play? Am I pronouncing your name right?
Yeah, you pronounced it right.
Cool.
I thought if you could do knight g3, because then I thought you can probably open the king a little. You can bring probably a queen over to the e file and to e3. I thought maybe, because once you do a knight g3, they'll take with the h pawn. I don't think they'll take back with bishop because the pawn is there. So and they take with the h pawn and you take back. The bishop won't take because your queen is protecting it. And that's all.
Yeah, very good, Mukunda. So guys, this is a move that I kind of knew was going to make this game special. Of course, I mean, if you just notice my last two moves, I put the knight under attack 2 moves in a row. I don't think I've ever done that in my life before or since. And, it's always like a special thing to be able to do that in a chess game and just to be like, hey, here, take my piece. I'm not even taking your pieces, right? Like usually when you put your pieces under attack, you're taking stuff. Here, black was just jumping through these squares without even taking anything. But this knight g3 move actually is really strong. It's the best move in the position and gives black the clear advantage, because turns out the bishop on e1 is vulnerable. So there's no ability to move away the rook, and they pretty much have to take the knight. And so we calmly take back. And Okay, the ideas are pretty simple. We have a really powerful pawn entrenched in our opponent's position, and we just want to go like bishop e3 next, then bring in the queen, go to the h file. And so my opponent is really kind of desperate to do something here. So he plays f4. And this was, a really key moment in the game where you just have to calculate precisely a lot of different tempting possibilities. And I feel like here, I mean, what I did was pretty good, but I think I could have done things even better. So
that last poll for the game, right?
Yes, it's the last poll.
So what would you do here? It's always good to finish off a beautiful game so far with a beautiful finale.
Yeah, don't you feel, Jen, like, my game with Tatev is the same thing. I just like missed that final beautiful part,
Yeah, even though still a great game, but yeah, you wish you could rewrite the ending a little bit.
Yeah.
When it's in your best games collection, you want it to have that beautiful ending.
Of course. Yeah. But well, I think I would have to improve my calculation skills and my attacking abilities to put in all of those beautiful finishes the way I'd like. All right, so we have some people raising their hand.
All right, Shreya, I haven't called on you yet this evening.
Oh, sorry, it's an old hand. I was gonna say G. I was gonna say knight G3 for the last move.
Okay, good job. You got it right. Tori, how about you? We haven't called on you yet tonight.
So the move that I would play is queen takes f4, because if rook takes f4, then you have rook takes e1 check, rook goes back, bishop e3 check, and then the queen has to move to f2, and then you take with the bishop, and that's checkmate. So
yeah, I wonder what I didn't, guys, yes, I did not play this move. This was the beautiful move that it would have been really nice to finish this game with. I mean, after sacrificing the knight, just sacrifice the queen would have been, would have made this game very famous, I think. And why didn't I do it? I mean, okay, they obviously got a capture. I mean, I'm going to take. And now they're going to go back, right? So here we could just add in a check. I probably just didn't evaluate this position properly. I probably didn't like the idea that the queens have come off the board and I'm not like up material yet. And so I looked at this end game and I was like, oh, unclear or something. But in fact, it's completely winning for black. Yeah, I mean, it's also winning just because the white king is actually still really, really vulnerable, even in the end game. Like, black just wants to go rook f8 next. So yeah, like this position is not even close to being okay for white. I guess we can make a few moves and see what happens. Like, let's say they go here. I mean, if you look at it just, with your human eyes, right, Jen, it looks like you can see why it didn't immediately winning to me.
Oh yeah, but okay, so you can play rook f8 now, right?
Yeah, when we go rook f8, I mean, their bishop can barely move, right? I mean, like, I guess they have to try here. And probably some back rank mate ideas.
Or rook f4, right?
Yeah, rook f4 looks really good. Yeah, I don't know why I was thinking about bishop d1, Jen, I guess.
Well, you're looking for beauty points.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool, but you know what? Of course, rook f4 is more effective, and yeah, that's kind of the end. Right, so I should have just been willing to mate in the end game, guys. You see, that was why I just couldn't go for this, because I saw the queen trade happening and I didn't realize that it was completely winning. But of course, in the game, yes, I actually do remember, even though this game was played like, wow, 18 years ago almost, I do remember wanting to make this move work. Of course, I was aware of that because my whole idea had been to bring in my queen through that square. So there was no way I could possibly miss that. And I guess on this move, what would I do? I mean, maybe just queen d4, perhaps. Actually, well, there's queen d4. There's a few moves here. Yeah.
Oh, rookie one doesn't work.
Rookie one, yeah, the queen still
The queen is
controls
still
F2.
protecting, yeah. So your queen d4 looked pretty good though.
Yeah, queen d4, they got to go like bishop f2, and yeah, and then bishop e3 is going to come at some point and win the game, or this one is winning, right? So, yeah, that would have been prettier. I would have been more proud of the game like this. But, you know, I still managed to sacrifice something. I sacrificed my rook for the bishop. And actually, I was down like a whole rook here. So I got my queen there. I'm threatening queen d4 and queen h4 and all kinds of things like that. And here I made one more mistake, guys. I think the best move was just a simple one. Yeah, just taking back calmly and playing rook f8 next. You know, believe it or not, the attack just comes with very calm moves like bringing more pieces in, rook f8, just to make it hard for the king to escape via the f file, and then just queen h4. So I didn't really have to do anything very fancy. That was sort of my downfall in this part, that I went in for this pawn, and then here, okay, how much am I down here? I guess a rook and a piece. Okay, it's quite a lot. Rook b3, and again I should have taken. Yes, my next move was a really big mistake. So knight should have taken, and the difference is that when they go here and I go here, okay, they just don't have a move here. Yeah, queen h1 and knight d4 is coming. So it would have been winning. Now, what's the difference with in the game? I will show you. What I did in the game was I took this knight first before taking the bishop. I'm not sure why I decided to do that, because clearly that knight was not particularly dangerous and my bishop could still be useful in the attack. So I took, maybe I just thought it was going to be winning. Okay, but I mean, yeah, I probably missed rook f3 or missed the power of it. You know, the idea is that they can't take with the queen because of mate. They can't take with the rook because of the fork. That was probably what I wanted to do, was to get the rook to move away so I can have that knight e3 fork. But what he did after I took his knight was he just went rook f3, which of course makes a lot more sense, to bring the rook into the defense. And now I had to take, he took, and I played here. And I could have had that same position with the bishop on g5 and the knight on c1. And my opponent, he was in some time trouble, and he had one move to defend here. Now, of course, thankfully, it wasn't so easy for him to find. So my threat is queen h1, just winning everything, queen h1, queen g2, winning the rook. And he needed to find this move queen d1, which I think is doable, of course, but in time trouble, it's a bit tricky. And I actually think I saw this move in the game, and I was quite unhappy because it leads by force into some end game where clearly I lost most of my advantage. The idea of queen d1 is to protect the rook. So I can't go for the g2 pawn because the king just escapes to d3 and the queen protects the rook. So that's the power of this queen d1 defensive move. So I would have had to go for another line here like that. And like all of this is completely forced. All of that is forced, and I'm down a rook. Kind of lucky that I'm able to even promote my, use the pawn promotion idea here. And yeah, this knight endgame, guys, I have a lot of pawns, but unfortunately it doesn't really matter because I'm losing b7, and it's like it's a complete mess over here. So queen d1, the computer says it's equal.
Wow.
It says, well, he says, I have to give up my knight, Jen, and then play this position. And he says, this is equal, after king g7. So
that's amazing. There's a saying about that International Master John Donaldson said to me. I don't know if somebody else said it before him, but just about getting the bestest with the mostest in these pawn end games. Cause it's kind of shocking that black's not winning there. You have to do a double take, right? But that B pawn is just so close to the finish line.
Yeah, this B pawn. The knight actually is really good now. There's too much pressure on these pawns. Yeah, it's quite sad. So he could have found that, but thankfully he didn't. he played King E2 and, walked into this fork and realized like, okay, he's just going to lose everything here. So he resigned, and one possible line I was looking at was like knight d4 here, and probably just the simplest is just to take the knight on a5, and I'm up a lot of pawns there and the king is still open. So yeah, this is probably one of the, sort of the prettiest ideas I've had a chance to play in my life, guys. And I think even my opponent kind of took it pretty well. He wasn't that upset after the game. I think he realized like it was, at least he'd lost to in a special way. All right, so that's.
Oh, did he kiss your hand like in the? No, this was. I'm sorry. This was a junior tournament. Yeah.
No, this was not a junior tournament. This is the American Continental Championship.
Okay. This was the American Continental Championship.
Yes, this was not. Yeah, this was a tournament. That was qualifying you for, I guess, the World Knockout Championship, and we had a whole contingent of American players.
Did you need a spot, or did you need the spot, or?
No, I was not close. I mean, it was, I wasn't really close to qualifying for that, but just playing my own tournament and trying to get practice against good players was why I went down there. And I think it's actually maybe the only time I played in the American Continental Championship. It's always held in South America. It's not, so easy, I think, for American players to get to it. So that was my only time. And
yeah, I feel like when professional players are kids, they go to South America quite often because of the Pan American Championships and World Juniors. But then recently, I don't think you've been there as much.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember when was the last time I was in South America. I mean, I went to play in Brazil a few times when I was a kid, this tournament, and actually not so much. Yeah, I mean, I've been to Central America a few times, but that was just like for vacation. So, yeah.
Have you ever counted how many countries you've been to?
No, I'm sure we could do that. It would take, we can do that for the next hour, Jen. That's fine.
No. A lot of people just have the answer ready. A lot of people like have it collected somewhere. So
yeah, no, I've never counted. And I mean, I've been to, my number is not as large probably as it could have been because I've been to so many places multiple times, and if I would have spread out those trips to new countries, then it really could have been a lot. But, there have been places like, I don't know, Russia, China, England that I've just been to like, many, many times. Okay, guys, so let me show you one more example. It was memorable from, have I been to India? Yes, Sujana, I've been to India 3 times. And that was one of my favorite countries. Unfortunately, I just haven't been there in a long time. There was a time where I would go there like every year, but I was there in like 98, 99, 2000. And then I haven't been there for 20 years. Somehow I just haven't had a chance. My first time was in a city, it was the World Junior Championship for under 20. And that was in Calicut. It was like somewhere in the south of India, I think, maybe not so far from Bombay. And the second time was World Cup, and that was in Hyderabad. And then it was the World Knockout Championship, and that was in New Delhi. So, yeah, I loved India, and I would be happy to go back. It's just a long plane trip.
Yeah, it is. It is. Oh, we have one person in the chat saying that they were just playing in a chess.com event, and in a random tournament, people in the chat were saying guys are better at chess than girls. And yeah, how would you respond to that if like that was something people were saying when you were a kid playing a tournament?
Oh, I would try to beat them.
Like in this last game.
I mean, I certainly wouldn't talk to them in words, better in moves. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't really of course I know people say stuff like that and it's kind of annoying. No one said that to me when I was growing up. So I just never really had a chance, to to say anything. But yeah, that's not very nice. So let's see, guys, another example. Give me 1 second. This one is from a tournament I played only once in my life in Wake on Zee. You guys know this, quite a special event. It's been going on for, I don't know, at least 60 years in Holland, and gathers the best players in the world every January. They had various groups, like A, B, C groups. So, you know, the top groups are like for the world champion level players. But all of the groups, you know, have really strong players with grandmasters in every group. So I played this guy that Jennifer told me was actually your recent guest, Magnus Carlsen.
Yes, he's often here because he is a co-host and co-organizer of our initiative with Kenya Girls. So, and now it's expanded to other countries like Uganda. So he's done a lot of work with the Girls Club, actually.
That's cool. Yeah. This game, guys, was memorable for me. I was white. We're going to go through the opening quickly. It was a Nimzo Indian. And he did play a little bit provocatively here. I think the main move might be bishop e7, retreating the bishop. He took, giving up the bishop pair, giving me the hanging pawns in the center, and played b6. So it's like, on the surface, it looks normal. Like, of course, you know, if you're shadowing the bishop. But the thing is, my bishop hasn't moved yet. You know, it's not like on g5. It hasn't been committed. So the bishop can still go to a3. And now the black has a problem. If they go rook e8, you know, there's an idea with d5 that I'm sure he really didn't like. And the placement of the rook on e8 is quite unfortunate. So he played rook d8. It was basically like saying, okay, sacrifice your bishop on e6. And I was like, well, okay, I'll sacrifice it. This, of course, looked really good for white, but it got very tricky. In this position, I thought for probably around, I don't know, 40 minutes, one of my longest things ever in chess, because I felt there was a win and I just couldn't see it. I mean, obviously I could make a draw, you know, whenever I want. Like I can just do, you know, I could go here and I can just repeat moves, right? Like if I don't see the win. But I mean, I felt like there should be, there, 1 second, where are we? Here, yes, oh, here we are. I felt like there should be a win in this position. Unfortunately, though, I don't have the smothered mate, right? Because his queen controls f7. So I can't just go knight f7, knight h6, and queen g8. And meanwhile, my queen is hanging. So where is the win?
Okay. Ritha, what do you say?
I thought it was knight f7 check, because then king g7, knight h6, queen g8, knight take. Oh, it doesn't work.
That's the whole point, right, Rissa? That's the point I was trying to make, that I don't have the smothered mate here. So that was the difficulty, guys. The difficulty was that there was no smothered mate. But here's what I realized. At some point, here's what the line that I saw. I saw it like, I was looking at this move, right? Where I move my queen away from attack. And if he takes it, it's a fork, so I win the rook and I'm up material. But then I realized when I do this move, he goes here. He attacks my knight. And when I go there, he just moves back. It's like, where's my win? Okay, I'm down a piece. I don't have any smothered mate. On this move, there's a defense, right? So I just couldn't really get past it. And then I finally realized that in this position, what I needed to do was to change the position of this knight, that this little detail was preventing me from winning. So I have to start with a check. He goes here, I go here, but I'm not trying to do the smothered mate, right? What I'm trying to do is to go with his queen f7 move. The only difference is my knight's not on g5, it's on h6. And now when they go queen f4, which is their only move, because they got to keep the square covered. If they go to any other square, right, then we do the smothered mate. this was probably the only game in my life against a serious opponent where I got to have these, you know, smothered mate ideas. So they got to go queen f4. So now on queen g8, the queen holds f7. There's no smothered mate. And on queen f4, now I go bishop c1. And you see, guys, the knight's better position doesn't allow queen f5.
Mm.
So this little detail, it just really took me a long time to see the combination, because, you know, when you look at this position from here, you're kind of like, well, you're looking, you know, we're more familiar with this, and that is just like only playing for smothered mate, right? And then this one, I just seemed to not work. So I had to combine these ideas. Like on one hand, I'm going to put my knight on h6, but on the other hand, it's really just so I can go queen f7. And this nice little move combined with bishop c1, it wins the game because they can't defend against queen g8 in any normal way. And he had to go here and just allow me to take the queen, take the exchange, and then I was up the exchange and, you know, was easily winning. So yeah, that was one of my more challenging moments, guys, where I really had to push through something. Like I knew it was there, I couldn't find it, and I just sat there until I finally found it, and then I was kind of rewarded with the point.
Amazing. That was a great demonstration. I asked everybody if they've ever gotten a chance to get the Smothered Mate. You know, it's not like you're going to get it that often in a real game, but you'll definitely get it in like a Blitz game or something if you keep practicing the patterns.
Yeah, the stronger opponents you play, the less of a chance. You know, you have to put a Smothered Mate on the board because, you know, stronger players, they know the danger, they try to avoid it. So, I mean, he somehow, you know, thought that his position was holdable because he had those two pieces attacking my queen, and it almost was. You know, he just, you know, this little detail of how I can switch the position of my knight. So finally, guys, I'm going to show you something from my very recent practice. By no means perfect, but it's kind of cool because, you know, it's an online game since everyone is only playing online, and I've gotten to play some strong players as part of these training camps that I attend to try to get better at chess too. And our last camp was with Vladimir Kramnik and Boris Gelfand, and we had a chance to play a Blitz tournament against them. So, well, they were not the only players, but they were like the key players that you really wanted to face. And I got to play Boris Gelfand, and again, and this game I'm going to show to you guys how we can make a comeback against someone really good.
Boris Gelfand wrote a lot of very popular books, right?
Yeah, dynamic decision making in chess, positional decision making, really good books that I like. And I have to say, you know, both Gelfand and Kramnik are really nice guys. You know, you kind of get to know people just by, you know, attending their classes online, and I never had much of a chance to interact with them before. So yeah, this past year, since everything went online, I've gotten to do a lot of these camps, and they're both really, really nice people and great instructors. So let me show you guys this game we just played like about a week ago. I played the move c4, guys, in the opening because we were working on kind of like Maroczy bind pawn structures. And I was trying to get into one, but it didn't really work. So he played c5, knight f3, knight f6. And here we are. Now here I completely mixed everything up. I mean, I could have played the move g3. That's the normal move. And black has a lot of things here. They can castle, they can play knight e4. It actually transposes into kind of a Nimzo line. But so I played this move, knight db5. Not good. He goes d5, really logical. I mean, what in the world is my knight doing there? And I realized I'm going to face all these problems with d4. So at this point, I already knew that queen a4 wasn't good and was running into like knight c6. And, you know, I had absolutely nothing for this knight to do, guys. So this was the opening part was not good. All right, losing lots of time in the opening, moving the same pieces over and over, not a lesson to follow. So we try to survive. Yeah, the only good part is that I'm getting my opponent's dark squared bishop, and here I try to stop them from castling. Well, yeah, this is not a great position, but on the other hand, you know, white does have the bishop pair, and if one day I can set up the pawns like that, perhaps it could be playable. And my opponent didn't find this idea of going with a knight to the side of the board, which, you know, admittedly is a little bit unusual, but there's just no good defense to queen h4. So that could have kind of shut down white's hopes in this game. He went knight d5. So, you know, a reasonable move. I mean, I realized it was a trap. I was like, oh, he wants me to take the pawn, so I'm going to lose my bishop. Yeah. But that wasn't really the plan. The plan was always to go e4, and I like to always show my students how effective this kind of pawn chain is against a bishop on the long diagonal. So I was already feeling hopeful. I was like, oh, e4 and bishop e3. Beautiful to put the bishop to cover the dark squares. So, and he can't castle still. He can't castle, and this knight seems a bit awkward. But he chose an interesting strategy here, which was just like, give up the pawn on c4 and just play queen e7. And I realized, oh, okay, well, still not so easy for me. Yeah, if I trade, I'm stuck with those weak pawns. Obviously, black is doing at least okay. So I tried to this move. And the idea is I wanted him to go a5. It's actually, I think, the best move, and I was expecting him to do it. But I wanted that pawn there just to get the structure a little bit looser on the queen side. Yeah, I didn't want to just like trade right away and play this position because there's really nothing I can attack on the queen side at all. And here he helped me out a bit with this decision. Yeah, he traded and he improved my pawn structure. And now I got into something that I really love, which is the bishop pair. Jen knows it's one of my favorite themes, playing with the two bishops, and he goes here. All right, guys, that's our poll question. What should white do? Important decision. Yeah, guys. So, well, one thing I definitely wasn't going to do was to trade the bishops, right? Because black is very happy with that. My bishop cannot attack either of those pawns. The knight has an outpost. So I didn't really want to go down that route. Rook c1 is interesting, yeah, because they can't really go rook c8 since I can take on b5. I thought they would just castle or maybe take my bishop and then castle and then play like rook c8. So, or even, yeah, like castle, probably, yeah. And then it can play b5 if they want. I didn't want to be just left with this guy. I mean, he's a good bishop, but the bishop pair is always stronger together, right? So you see, I got to do my favorite thing, guys, which is to keep my bishop pair. That was an important decision. And I'm going to try to keep it for as long as I can. So he goes knight b2, a4 to kind of knock that bishop away. He offers me another trade. Again, we decline. And he castled. I got to put the king on f2. So I was feeling like, okay, well, this is the best position I've had all game. He goes king b8. And now, you know, this was an interesting moment in this blitz game. I mean, the obvious move, I think, would have been this one. And the reason I didn't do it was because I was thinking there could be things like that. I was, you know, trying to see ahead, and I was like, oh, I might have problems with my b4 pawn. And because of that, guys, I played this move, you know, and I was pretty happy with that, you know, because even in a blitz game, to kind of have some sort of thinking about, you know, what your opponent wants is important. So I left the rook here to guard that square. And yeah, white is certainly better here. We've kept the bishop pair. Although, by the way, guys, there are positions where I actually can take, which I never really considered. I never really considered going into the bishops of opposite color, but there were various points in this game where I could have done that and still had an attack. But for now, I played here. It's kind of an automatic move in a blitz game. You don't want give your opponent any checks. And b5. Yeah, apparently here taking was stronger and getting the open file. But I went for the space advantage. I thought, hey, you know, it could be useful one day to not let my opponent's king out, and locked things up. Saved the bishop, and here I was kind of happy with this move because it completely, I think, you know, it has the potential to really confuse the opponent, and it did work like that, and especially in a blitz game where people have like, I don't know, 30 seconds, it can work out really well. So did we have a poll for this one, Jen?
No, I didn't in this position. Sorry. But
it's fine.
You can ask them what they think that you should do.
Yeah.
You can put it in chat also. What do you think white should do here? We've got, rook c1.
Oops.
I assume rook a c1. You should specify, guys. Bishop c5.
Yeah, bishop c5. I guess rook d7.
Yeah, so bishop c5 is like, it's cool that you notice the pin, but the rook, you know, in chess, it's always important to remember that you don't have to take. But even more importantly, knight takes c5, rook takes d6, knight e4.
Oh, good point, Jen.
Yeah, your idea will backfire.
Oh, that's so nice, though, isn't it? Because you're trying to use a pin, and you lose to a pin, right?
I know, it's ironic, right?
Yeah, that's really, really nice. Good point. Yeah, well, I did try to use that pin, guys. I played rook a c1, and I think just the shock of that move, you know, was too much, you know, because the idea is that, you know, when they take the rook, I take their rook, I'm threatening mate and their knight, right? So that just looks so deadly, right? They don't have time to take my bishop. And if knight e2, then I just go king f2. So my opponent actually could have done that if he would have seen this. But that's not so easy to see in a blitz game. Yeah, that you can keep your cool like that. You're about to get mated, your knight's under attack, and you don't defend against any of those things except in this indirect way. And this actually holds things for black, which is, so he could have gone for that. But yes, I mean, the idea, of course, the power of this move is also that we're just trying to go to c7. If you get to c7 and to get into the 7th rank, yeah, the rook has enormous power there. So his other move, which is also not so natural since it gives me a protected pass, pawn on b6 would have been rook c6. But again, you know, he's holding on because right now he's keeping my rook out. As long as he doesn't let that rook in, he's not losing, right? So he had a few defenses, but, you know, in time trouble, it was just kind of hard to come up with it. And so, you know, typical stuff. And I got to win this night. So that game I thought was at least kind of cool because we got to use the bishop pair and, you know, take a space advantage on the queen side, do some prophylaxis, and then some tricky little tactics to win.
And was that the highest rated player you ever beat in a blitz game, for instance?
No.
Wait, who'd you beat that was higher?
Magnus.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. When was that?
Yeah, when he was a guest at the Magnus Carlsen chess camp in New York City in 2012. It was right before he became world champion. And so it was something he partnered on with Chess NYC, and I was a teacher at the camp. And one day he was going from room to room where the different teachers were and playing blitz with the instructors, so the kids could watch. And so I was like the final room he came to, and I was about to like give up and go home for the day, but I was like, well, maybe he's still gonna come, and so I stayed. And unexpectedly, I won. You know, so I think that is, I mean, that was a highlight. You know,
how'd you win? Do you remember? Like, was it?
I do, and I can find the game somewhere. Of course, I saved it. It was, you know what it was? It was a Nimzo Indian, Jen, and I was white, and I played a line against him that I knew he liked to play as white. Anyway, it doesn't matter what that is. I didn't play it very well. I got a slightly worse position, and I had to crawl out of it. I crawled out of it finally to equalize and be okay. And then he hung a bishop. I won the bishop. Then I had to, do some technique. At the end, I was completely winning, but I didn't have much time. And he could have tried to like flag me, just like kept playing moves, but he resigned. He was a good sport about it. So, and gave me a happy memory.
Nice story. You were the only one that beat him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there were other grandmasters also.
They were. And, the funny thing is that he played them with odds. He gave them odds and he still won. But with me, it was like 5 minutes. He didn't give me odds for some reason.
Wow. That's so ironic. Wow.
It's ironic, right?
Were you a grandmaster that year?
2000. So no, see, I was a year from becoming a GM and he was like a year from becoming world champion.
So great career milestones forked after that game. He learned a lot from it. That's probably why you won the world championship.
Yeah. No, but that little interaction with Magnus, it was like, it definitely showed you a few things, about him. And the thing is, like, after he lost, they asked him, I think one of the organizers was there, and he was like, "Oh, do you want to play again?" And he was like, "No, that's okay." You see, he controlled himself because I'm sure he wanted to play again. Like every chess player, when they lose, they want to play again to beat you and like restore their honor, right? But he kind of knew that it was like, okay, it was one game, and he was just gonna it's very hard for someone to reproduce that level of effort in a second game, right? So he did it. He just like let me have that victory and enjoy it and let it stand, like that. Didn't try to get his revenge immediately. So I thought
a lot of people would have tried to play 2 more games.
Absolutely, but he kind of showed that restraint, even though of course he's very competitive and he was not planning on losing, and he didn't try to flag me, he really, really behaved well in that situation. So.
Well, we're going to wrap up the lesson, but we might have time for 1 or 2 questions, but specifically about something Irina talked about today, perhaps, if anybody has anything about that, or maybe the chess life story, this would be a good time.
Yeah. Someone said, "Wow, he's a good man." Well, yeah, that was in my personal experience, that was my conclusion as well, that there were a few things in that just one little experience that I think like stood out to me. Because I know how hard it is to it's like, imagine, Jen, we would go in and play against someone who's like rated, 1900 or 2000, right? And we're expected to win and we're supposed to we're the stars. And then we go in and we lose. And it's like so embarrassing. Of course, he wasn't happy about it,
No, but that you're right. It is a good show of self-control. Absolutely. Violet asks, are you ready to reveal what language you're learning? A fan of Ladies Night. Love to see it.
No.
Not yet.
Still a secret. But I'm getting better. You're getting better.
Okay. Do you know how to talk about what's like a marker for whether you know a language well? Anastasia, what's your question?
Sorry, I couldn't unmute for a second. I was going to say, I know that you're in Chess Life, but my favorite magazine is actually the Chess Life for Kids because I get it every month. And I was really happy to see that you were in it. You have like your whole like page for it. And I was really excited because I remember seeing you before. I was just really happy about that.
Thank you. I actually just got my own Chess Life for Kids just like a day ago. And I really liked how they did that, this whole story, the illustration. It was really cool. I just got to give them, credit for putting all of that together. And, what's funny is that I told them the story about the Brooklyn Bridge and how it was, a very significant part of my childhood because I traveled over it like every week to get to play chess. And that was way before we decided to do this cover shoot in front of the Brooklyn Bridge. And so it's funny that it worked out that way, that the Chess Life cover shoot also had the bridges, just like the Chess Life for Kids mentioned.
We're not going to go through the whole comic, but I would love it if you guys saw how cool the illustration is. They did one for me a year or so ago, by the way. I love it.
I thought they did one on Tatev. They gave it to me as an example. And I thought that was really nice how they did it. So I was like, oh, let's see what they can do with my story.
Beautiful. I grew up in Brooklyn, New York. Several times a week, my dad and I would cross the Brooklyn Bridge so I could play at the Manhattan or Marshall chess clubs. Sometimes we'd arrive so late, the clock near the bridge would almost strike midnight. I'd fall asleep and my dad would carry me into the house. Eventually, I began playing in tournaments outside of New York. Those outings were a big part of my childhood. Chess may have taken me around the world, but the Brooklyn Bridge reminds me of home.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Really
Oh,
good.
and look at the pictures, Jen. Oh, they actually have a nice selection of pictures. You just go up the page. Those are some pretty cool ones that I gave them from my my travels and me as a kid. So maybe some of the girls have never seen these before. Me on a camel, me in the Republic of Georgia, in a very remote village high up in the mountains, me in at the Olympiad in Norway as well.
Awesome.
I love that picture of me and my dad, that's so my childhood. On that sofa that's the one where you saw that one, Jen, right? Yeah.
Beautiful. Love it. Great question, Anastasia, or observation. I am happy to hear from you. Well, let's thank Irina for her amazing analysis today. It was so great. We loved hearing about all of those victories. So inspiring. So,
Thank you guys for coming. It was good to be with you again.
And you keep having all these accomplishments, so you have to keep coming back. I mean, eventually the world will open up again, so you'll have a chance to win another championship. And
yeah, I just read today. I found out that are they planning the U.S. championships for October this year?
I had heard that. I hadn't read it yet, though. Where'd you read it?
Yeah, that was up on their website. They have a calendar for 2021, and they actually put that up already.
Oh, wonderful! Yeah, well, that's something to look forward to, right? Good stuff.
I absolutely would look forward to going back and playing in St. Louis again.
Everybody's saying that they learned so much. You're welcome, Tanishka. Thank you, Irina. And yes, read those Chess Life and Chess Life for Kid articles to further the inspiration. Daisy, what's your toy that you keep bringing out? It looks really cool. It's like is that like, you're muted, but I have been appreciating it throughout the lesson. She says, thank you, Irina Krush. I wonder if she named that stuffed animal Irina.
Thank you, guys.